Hey, good evening, everybody. This is Bill Graham coming to you live from Model Railroading Live, the number one model railroading show in the world, if not the universe. This is our 3,468th show tonight on the Model Railroading Live. How do I know that? Because I just said so. So if you guys want to go back and count all the shows, be my guest. Go right ahead. So what did I say? 3,468? It could be 69 or 70. I'm not too sure. Anyway, let's get rid of that. That's done. Okay. We're about to introduce our guests. We have a good guest tonight, by the way. Hey, Frank Delorio. Hello. Drew Dudes Model Trains. Greetings. Pirates of the Model Trains. Hello. John Benecki. Good evening. Good evening to you. Grandpa Rails. Hey, Johnny. Big Bill. Lynn McCurdy. Hi, Bill, from the California desert. Hello, Lynn. And all our others. Hey, Frank, I got off the phone with this on a personal note. You guys won't know this guy. Hey, Frank, I got off the phone with Ed Crichton today. He's retiring June 2nd. This guy we worked with. David Parker, howdy. How you doing, Dave? What is the announcement I got to make? Oh, yes. As you guys know, Johnny's Train Talk Show made an announcement on Thursday's show that he will be taking a sabbatical, a vacation of sorts, June, July, and August. Dwight at Northern Star, hello, and stuff. So he'll be taking a time away, like I said, June, July, and August. And his last show that he'll be on will be the 20th of May. That's Thursday at 9 p.m. We have something else in the works when John's away that we might be guest hosting his Johnny's Train Talk Show for once a month, stuff like that. We're in negotiations with the big star in model railroading and trying to negotiate the contract with him and to see whether or not he'll do it, if it's worth it. Got to maybe throw it a few shekels to him, but I hope he'll be generous enough to do it on the arm. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think Grandpa Rails will say yes eventually.
Well, he just gave it away, but can't keep secrets around model railroading live. Not at all. Can't keep any. In any case, who we got? Dave Parker, Grandpa Rails. Hey, Dwight of Northern Star, I mentioned him. Frank Delore, finally 40. Yes, finally 43 years. Ed Crichton, 43 years of service with the New York City Transit Authority. He'll be retiring June 2nd. God bless with him. So with that said, Johnny's Train Talk Show is May 20th, Thursday at 9 p.m. That's where you guys, if you have a webcam, a good computer, come on in. You can join in the discussion. You can mosey on down to Johnny's model railroading shop there on the corner of, East Tremont and 162nd Street. And pull up a chair, grab a soda out of the ice box, and sit down and talk about trains. And you're more than welcome to be a part of it. Okay, so that's May 20th, Thursday at 9 p.m. That will be the last show John will be doing because, like I said, he'll be taking a vacation sabbatical from June, July, and August. Hopefully, we're going to have we'll do a sit-in once a month. Some of us will take over the spot there and, work it out. So keep you guys informed. Freddie's in the house. Hey, Brad Anderson's Model Railroading Down Under. Hey, good day, Bill. Let's see. Pirates of the Model, I think we mentioned. William A. Hey, William, how are you? Bill, how's everything going? So just to give you guys an update of what we're doing here at Model Railroading Live, we're just moving along. We're still going to be doing Who's Big Bill Talking To. Have a guest lined up for I think the end of the month. I have to confirm it. He hasn't said yes or no, but he kind of said yes, but I don't want to give it away because I don't want to disappoint you. So and stuff like that. So we have a special guest tonight, all the way from Massachusetts. He came down, and I have him sequestered in the hall closet. So he's in the hall closet. He's going to broadcast it from there with the brooms and the vacuum cleaner. And I hope he didn't eat that rancid cheese that was in there I left for the mouse. Eric Hall's in the house. Hey, Big Bill. I have an operations event tonight on the Lost Dutchman Railroad. Well, hey, someone's going to have fun. Stick around. We might have fun. And let's see. So without further ado, and without further anything, actually, I want to bring in our guest, Joe Parker.
Hi, everybody.
Joe, hey, Joseph, how are you? Joe, a lot of guys have been asking, are you any relation to Peter Parker, Spider-Man?
No one's ever asked me that before, but no.
Well, hey, I'm that kind of knucklehead. They're just wondering, though, just so the masses will know, so there's no confusion.
Now, if I am, I want some royalty payments.
Yes, of course. So at least have the knowledge of how the spider web works.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Legend Driver C is in the house. Hello, Legend. Dwight of Northern Stars here. Where in Mass, they want to know. What part of Massachusetts are you living?
I'm in southeastern Massachusetts. I'm about 40 miles southwest of Boston. I live in a town called Norton that probably no one's ever heard of.
Well, we did now. If they didn't, they do now.
Yeah, that's right.
And Joe, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Bill. I'm glad to be here.
Well, I'm glad to have you. Joe has a YouTube channel called the Pixel Depot, Pixel. We're going to run it across the bottom on the streamer there. And I happened to come across Joe's channel a couple of weeks ago, and I was intrigued by his channel. Because he actually came out and said, just because you don't have the space doesn't mean you can't have a railroad. Well, not exactly like that, but
pretty close.
Pretty close. You weren't as, mean-spirited as I've been, but you do have, explain a little bit about your Pixel Depot Railroad. How did you come about having that name and the channel itself?
So the name comes from a side business that a friend of mine and I had for about 8 years, where we manufactured mouse pads, coasters, photos. We did photos on canvas and vinyl decals and things like that. We closed that down in 2018. And when I was looking for a channel name, I'm like thinking to myself, well, the Pixel still works. Everything on the computer is pixels. The Depot still works because it's all train related. So I figured, since there was a little bit of name recognition out there, not a huge amount, but at least a little bit, I would continue with it. And there we have it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, how long have you been doing YouTube videos, and how long have you been having a YouTube channel?
So I started doing YouTube videos about 2 years ago, and I did a few and then stopped. And then it wasn't until this March that I really sort of, picked myself up and said, let's do this. Let's really get serious about it. So in the last 6 or 8 weeks or so, I've published about a dozen videos, yeah. I guess. And, I've seen quite a bit of good response from people and added quite a bit of subscribers. So I'm pretty happy about that.
Well, that's good. I was attracted to it and brought to attention because I'm always looking. Did I, just out of curiosity, just for my own satisfaction, because my arch nemesis, Wilma, did he happen to give you a mention on his channel?
He did, and I appreciate it very much. That was about 2 weeks ago, I think, that he gave me a shout out, and that was really, that kickstarted certainly the added subscribers. So I'm much appreciative to Wilmer for that.
He's my arch enemy when it comes to this. We have a rivalry that goes back. It's deep and long. It's centuries old. I mean, he gets ahead of me on all these guys. I think that I discovered the next, Eric Hall, if you will, that's going to shoot to fame and stardom and YouTube model railroading. And I come to find out that Wilma, Indian Head Valley Railroad, has discovered them before I. So drats and double drats. Yes, Wilma, I said that. A long and storied feud that we have together. But anyway, so you Wilma discovered you basically and shot you out a big shout out, which is good. And all kidding aside, I have to say that Wilmer is actually my resource guy because he does the heavy lifting. I just go and peruse his videos and see who's like, hey, this guy looks like they're all interesting. I wish I could get everybody on, but some guys I reach out to, they don't want to get on for whatever reason, But I'm glad that you answered the call and said, hey, yeah, I'll come on. And but what I liked about your thing is what drew me to you was that when you said, hey, just because you don't have enough space doesn't mean you can't make a layout. Give me the idea behind that. What was that? Because
So that came from one of the first videos that I did when I restarted everything was, why should I pick model railroading as my hobby? And so I went through all of the things that are great about model railroading, and there's quite a few of them. And I kind of did it in a fake question and answer format where I made up the questions and answered them. And one of those questions was, well, don't I need a lot of space? And my response to that was, no, you don't need a lot of space. A lot of the layouts that you read about in the model press are huge, and they get all the attention, but you can have a lot of fun with a really small layout. Now, my main layout, not the one that's behind me, but my main layout is on the larger side. I'd call it a medium-sized layout. But to put my money where my mouth is, the space behind me is 15 inches by 90 inches. And after doing some land negotiations with my wife, decided that I was going to build a layout back there. So that's gave me an opportunity to have a background for when I'm actually recording videos, and gave me a series of videos for content. So it was a win-win.
That was good. That's good. Now your how can I say this? Your mild-mannered approach. I know when we talked the other night, you have some experience in designing layouts.
A little bit, yeah. It's something that I enjoy doing. I belong to a model train club for 20 years and designed 2 out of the 3 layouts that we built, or at least that I was involved in there. I've done some track planning and design for a couple of people, not for pay or anything like that, just
Sure.
fun. And I do belong to the layout design special interest group, and I've had an article or 2 published in the layout design journal. So it's when I have time, it's something that I
Right.
like to dabble at, and if people are looking, friends and family are looking for help, I'm happy to help out.
You're sort of like the in my opinion, the Superman of model railroading, because when I had talked to you, you had this like very Clark Kent disposition, very easygoing, laid back, and then all of a sudden you laid it on us and said, "Oh yeah, I belong to the Model Railroading Design Society, and I've designed," and I'm like, "Holy moly!"
It sounds a lot more impressive than it actually is.
Well, that is. I can't put 2 lines together, Joe. I mean,
Everybody's
that's
got
pretty.
talent, so.
Well, yeah, mine is procrastinating, and if my wife is in earshot, is she? No, absolutely not. But I eat.
So if I'm Clark Kent, I'm going to use this broom closet you gave me as my new changing booth, if that's okay.
Good, yeah. You didn't eat that cheese, did you?
No, I left that there. It was looking pretty
Good. Mojave Marrero, Tina. Hi, everybody. What did I miss? Well, hey, I'll give you the 411, Tina. We're on the show tonight. Who's Big Bill talking to you? Presented by Model Railroading Live, your friendly neighborhood model railroading station, with Joe Parker. Joe Parker's from Massachusetts, and he is the owner-operator of the Pixel Depot. That's his YouTube channel. And H.O. Scale, am I correct, Joe?
That's correct. Yep.
And He has a YouTube channel called the Pixel Depot, and we were just talking about how he has done a few videos, and one of the videos, and I think you have an upcoming series on it, is building a. You don't have to have a lot of space to build a big layout. Is that what that layout is behind you going to be?
Yeah, so that's the series layout. I've already done 4.5 episodes, and I say a half because I did a track plan update. So those videos are already up and available, and I encourage people, especially the armchair modelers out there, to take a look at it, and hopefully they'll get inspired. I've got a couple other series that I've got up my sleeve too. I started a new one just today, actually, about building a scrapyard on the main layout. So I'm keeping myself pretty busy with the videos.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. If you guys haven't got a chance, go over and subscribe to Joe Parker at the Pixel Depot LLC. It really is an interesting and very, very and your approach to it, like I said, the average. Just before, Tina from Mojave Model Railroad says she's originally from Massachusetts herself, from the
Winchester
Winchester
Gardner area. Okay.
Gardner area. Nice. Yeah. So, but your approach to the whole thing is that anybody and everybody should, I guess, instead of talking about it, do it.
Do it. Yep.
Exactly.
No one starts out being an expert model railroader. I know I've been doing this over 20 years seriously, and I wouldn't call myself an expert. I still consider myself to be an intermediate modeler.
Right.
But looking back at those years, and my brother will attest to this. I'm pretty sure he's the David Parker that said hello earlier. Some of the early stuff that I did was pretty bad, but but you got to learn somewhere, right? And so it's a constant cycle of trying it and learning and doing better the next time.
Well, Albert Einstein said it best. He said, "I wasn't the smartest guy in the room. I just looked at the problem a little longer than most." So if you do that, you can come up with you can do it, if you have a little rudimentary skill. And if you don't, you got to know somebody that has a skill saw and a drill that can help you out and teach you,
And that's a big part of it. I do I'm trying to do everything on the small layout myself. On my main layout, I have a monthly modeling group of friends that comes over, and we have some pizza and we have some laughs, and then we do some work on the layout, and that works out really well because there are just some things that I'm not good at, and wiring and soldering is one of them. And if you watch my videos, I'll refer to that quite often. I can do it. I'm just not good at it. So being able to rely on other people to pick up the slack where you may not be the strongest really, really helps out.
Yeah. Dan Cohen says my YouTube channel is selfish. It's there to keep me modeling, trying, and learning. Amen.
Yep. Yeah, I notice it's kept me a lot more focused and busy since I started doing it as well. Right. I'm making a lot more progress.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Now the layout that's behind you, that's a shelf layout, I'm assuming.
Yes.
And that background, is that a background photograph building, or is that a building itself?
No, it's a background photograph building.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that is actually one of the videos that's up and available is how I did the backdrop on that. One of the things that I put out in that video, and I'd love to hear what people have to say here, is that's basically a big backdrop photo that I put together from various pieces using Photoshop. I'm curious to see if there's any interest on people, wanting to find out, basically putting a video together showing how I did that. It's not the hardest thing to do, but it does take a little bit of experience. So that was one of the things. All right, so I've got one at least.
What gave it away? what gave it away? Yeah, I'd love to see that. I'd love to know how that's done. That would be great. Yeah, so that's one you need. That's more than one you need, and stuff. Now you have another layout right behind that wall.
That's correct, yes.
And that's what we would call the main layout?
That's what I refer to as the main layout, yes.
And what's the name of that layout?
That is the Monument City Terminal Division. And the reason for that is it's loosely set in Baltimore, a little bit more than loosely. It's mostly set in Baltimore, but I wanted to take some license. One of the nicknames of Baltimore as the Monumental City, and it's a branch line on there, so I turned it into the Monument City Terminal Division.
Oh, nice. Now, is it it's an operational switching layout, or is it a continuous running kind of?
It's mostly a switching layout. I have a continuous loop so that I can break things in, but when we run it point to point.
Oh, you do?
We do, yeah.
Yeah. Lynn McCurdy says, just subscribe to Joe's channel because you never can have too many channels to watch.
Well, I appreciate that, Lynn. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's good. So what now, obviously you're getting into model railroading. This was what, the Christmas tree train around the
Yeah, yes and no. So my brother had a model train layout on a 4x8 sheet of plywood when we were really young, or when I was really young. He's about 12 years older than I am. And then when I was 8, I got the train set under the layout that I could call my own. So that's where it started. And of course, over the years things ebb and flow a little bit. And,
Sure. And how did the you said earlier that the Pixel Depot was an offshoot of a business that you ran where you would put railroad images on mouse pads and such like that.
Yeah.
Was that related to your love of trains?
Very much so, yeah. Going way back from the earliest days, we lived near the railroad tracks, and I would sit. It was actually a dual main line. One of them was Penn Central, and one was Norfolk and Western. And I used to sit on my big wheel and watch the trains go by.
Big wheels, yeah.
Yeah. And that, just loved it from a very early age. And so, along with the model railroading, there's definitely we're my friends and my brother and I are rail fans. We head out to Pennsylvania usually every year, pandemics notwithstanding, to try and watch trains out on the West Slope, and it was kind of an offshoot of that.
So that's when you were a kid. And you were in the big wheel.
Yep.
For all of you guys out there or ladies out there that don't know what a big wheel is, my son Michael had one, and it is one of the most outrageous pieces of bicycling that ever happened for a young man and a young lady.
That's
I
right.
have to just say that. So you went out in your Hot Wheels, your big wheels, I should say, and this is before we had cell phones, or you probably didn't have a cell phone, so would come in when the street lights would come on, right?
Certainly later on, yes, it was definitely you better be home when the street lights come on.
Right.
That was long past the big wheel time.
But you didn't, when you rode the big wheel, you didn't have a helmet and arm pads and.
Definitely not.
No. That's when boys were boys and mommies got a little scared.
That's when toys could kill you.
Yeah, that's it. Mystic Southern Railroad says, hey, give Big Bill a like, y'all. One of the most interesting streams around. Well, thank you, Mystic Southern Railroad. We strive to do the best we can with what we got, and thank you so much for being a part of that Mystic Southern Railway. Frank DeLauro says, I had one, a plastic tricycle.
Basically, yes.
Yeah, that's what it was. My son had one. He used to like it when I used to wet the driveway. I would wet the driveway down. If I was washing the car, he'd yell, Dad, wet the driveway. And then he'd come screaming down from the corner, and then he'd slam on the, stop it, and he'd skid out, do a 360, and he thought it was the best thing. And, and then he'd flip it. I wouldn't tell his mother because she would be like, is he all right? Is he all right? Yeah, he's all right. Well, he's bleeding. Get a Band-Aid. He's bleeding really bad. Get 2 Band-Aids.
Just push the bone back in.
That's it. It'll be all right. Don't worry about it. But Ron's Trains and Things is in the house. Hey, Ron. We're talking with Joe Parker from his YouTube channel is called The Pixel Depot, Pixel Depot, and he was just telling us about the name of your railroad is the Monument City Terminal Division.
That is correct.
It is an HO scale railroad, and the track design, that was something that you did, obviously, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's based on the Sparrows Point subdivision in Baltimore, which was a nice short subdivision. It basically goes from Bayview Yard down a mile and a half or so down to serve a General Motors assembly plant. So,
All right. Mojave Model Railroad. Tina. This is why I love having Tina on the show. She should be my like Ed McMahon. She asked a question. She says, being in the hobby for so many years, what would you say, Joe, was one of the biggest game changers in the hobby for you over the years?
I'm going to say DCC, and again, I think that goes back to my disdain for wiring. It's not having to worry about different cabs and rotary dials to route power and all those sorts of things. I'm not sure. I'm good at a lot of things, and electricity is not one of them. And so, I'm not sure I would be anywhere near where I am without, two bus wires and DC.
Yeah, I am in the same boat as you, brother. I am in the same boat as you. When you decided to do this layout that you now have, the Monument City Terminal Division, was it something that it kind of like creeped up in the back of your mind that just like, hey, I want to do something? How was the genesis of this idea that came about? Because
Yeah,
I'm always interested when people do their layouts and they design them and they do like is it one of those sleepless nights where you like threw the covers back at 2:30, went downstairs, had a cup of coffee, and like pondered this? And
if only I could come up with things in a single night, life would be a lot easier. No, it was not that easy at all. So early on, when I first sort of got back into things, I thought I was going to do a freelance railroad. And this was the period of time where I hadn't built anything yet. I didn't really know what I liked. And so I thought, an around the walls layout, with long trains and things like that were going to be what I liked. It turns out that I'm not a big round and round kind of guy. I much prefer switching. So I scrapped that idea, and along the way, I was learning more about railroads and so on. And back when I was growing up, when I was younger, the chassis system was very, very popular on model railroad equipment because of the bright colors. It was a pretty
yes,
snazzy paint scheme, right? And as I was thinking about things, it was like, I should really revisit that. I kind of really liked that paint scheme. I also am a big fan of Conrail, and that's what I grew up with. I've never actually saw a chassis system train in person. It was always on models, but I saw lots and lots of Conrail trains. And so I started doing research about the chassis system and found out, a lot of interesting history about how, it was a marketing merger of three railroads, and formed this huge system in the Northeast and so on. And the more that I learned about it, the more interested I became. And then so I started to think about, okay, well, where on the system would I like to model? And again, a lot of chassis in Baltimore and Ohio was known for things like, sand patch and going up over the mountains and coal hauling and things like that. But again, I'm not a big fan of long trains. So I tried to figure out how I could do that. And so, modeling a subdivision in a city seemed to make sense. And there's some other things in there about street running and stuff like that people can find out from my videos. But
yeah,
long story longer, I basically decided on Baltimore as the location, for urban modeling and so on. I found the Sparrows Point subdivision, which was the right length with a good density of industries on it and so on, and everything went from there. But that took probably 4 or 5 years to come together. It was, I wish it all came to me in one night, one sleepless night.
well, the fruition of it started then when you
Yeah,
got out of bed and sat down and said, well, there's something I want to do. I just don't know what it is yet. That in this model
exactly.
railroading. Late night model railroad wants to know, hey, what's the one thing you wish was available in the hobby that isn't yet?
This kind of is piggybacks off of my last answer, which is reliable battery packs for locomotives so that we don't have to do any wiring at all. I would love locomotives to just all be battery powered.
Dead rail. Dead
Yeah,
rail.
dead rail. So, when that becomes more of a more viable, I know it's out there, but it's not really mainstream. Once it becomes more viable, I'll definitely be looking at that.
Well, it's that old saying. It's like you always hear the story and on YouTube, the conspiratorial stories of the guy who invented the tire that doesn't wear out, but the rubber companies put them out of business because eventually the dead rail battery will come in, and when they make a battery, a lithium battery that will last long for a while. But I think the DCC companies would be like hard pressed unless they themselves get in on it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They need to charge.
Cooltropolis Model Railroad says, yeah, dead rail would be an awesome thing to have.
Yep.
It would be. Absolutely, it would be. But, again, what's your favorite thing about the switching? What's the attraction to having a switching layout?
It's the puzzle aspect of it. I'm pretty into doing logic puzzles and things like that. And when you break it all down, switching is really nothing more than a logic puzzle. I like being able to run at prototypical speeds and follow not all but some of the rules in terms of sound effects and things along those lines. But then it's nice to be able to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this happen so that I can get all these cars that may or may not be in the right order on my train where they're supposed to be, and then get back to where I've got to go.
Yeah. I call it train chess.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, it's a good description of it.
Yeah, I call it train chess because it's like you put yourself, you think you box yourself into the corner, and then you're like, wait a minute. Got this rail down, got this. So how do we get this in? If we get that out, and then we do it, then you figure it out, which is kind of good, I mean, I always find working on the model railroad is like very relaxing and innovating.
Yes.
Have you ever noticed that if there's something going on in the job or if something's going on in your personal life, that you walk into your layout room, spend a couple of hours doing whatever it is that you want to do, and then you come out and you say to your wife, that situation that we had, whether we should go to Aunt Ma's and Sylvia's barbecue? Well, I came up with the solution. And because you were working in the model railroading room and your whole, got relaxed and the answer came to you,
Yeah, that happens quite often, in fact, just because, once you stop thinking about it actively and your brain starts working on something else, you'll often come up with it.
And usually what it is you stay home. You don't go to any of them. You stay home.
If you're me, that's pretty much
that's it. Pirates of the Model Train says, I remember a few chassis system trains when I grew up in Florida. Yeah. Artie McKeever, the Dead Rail Society. That would be good. Yeah.
So like the Dead Poet Society?
Yeah. Mystic Southern Railway. Is anyone doing dead rail yet? Well, actually, yeah, someone is. Miles Hale has a dead rail thing. He has a few engines that operate on a lithium battery, and he's been doing it for quite a while, and they run pretty sweet. He gets about an hour of running time out of them, which, when you think about it, is, that's up there.
What scale is he doing that in? I know it's a little bit more practical for like G scale, but
he's got an O scale and an O scale layout. So, Miles is the kind of guy. Miles Hale is the kind of guy, like, he needed an engine to put the battery in, so he couldn't find one, so he made one. That kind of guy.
Yeah. The guy's good with tools, right?
Yeah. The guy who invented the flex capacitor,
exactly.
for time travel.
I needed this thing, and 2 hours later, I came out with this.
Yeah, right. It's changed the whole dynamics of the way the world sees things and acts and stuff like that. So the wiring is not your thing. We came to that conclusion.
Yeah.
The wiring is not your thing. And the wiring isn't my thing, and I think it, but it's a necessary evil that has to be done. I'm in the process now of putting this harbor together, and I got the track down, but my next phase is wiring, the dreaded wiring.
Good luck.
Yeah. Steve Atwell, the owner and operator of Midwest Model Railroading Hobby Shop, is back in New York City because the theater is opening. So I was kind of hinting that he should come down and help me do wiring, but he's being thrown back into the job market, fast and furious. So, but he will be back. Let's see. Randall Ellis, all this dead rail talk got me thinking about a t-shirt I had as a kid that I had Deadwiser on the front, except the picture was a race car running over frogs. Yeah. Mojave Model Railroad Tina, she says, been a while since I've been back in Massachusetts, but what is your favorite hobby store in the area? She said, mine used to be Chippewa Railroad, which is now Half Priced Hobby, which used to be in Leomeister. Leominster. That's my New York at it. What's the matter?
The Massachusetts word for sure.
Yeah.
So I actually know Mike Saucier from Chippewa Model Railroad. He's a good guy. And if I lived closer to there, I certainly would spend a lot more time, but he's probably close to an hour and a half to 2 hours from here. There aren't very many good model railroad shops in my area that are really close. I would say the closest one that I go to with any frequency is actually in Providence, Rhode Island, and it's AA Hobbies. They've got it's primarily HO scale. That's what they focus in. They don't have a lot for other sizes, but they've got a great selection. And usually, if you're looking for things, especially details and stuff like that, they've got it. So that would be my vote for what's closest to me.
Yeah. Hey, the Nearly Historical Railroad just joined in. Don G. Hello, Don G. And to his dad, Don G. Sr., and to Scotty, and to Jim. Have you ever watched the Nearly Historical Railroad, Joe?
I've not, no. I'm still, like I said, I really only kind of got back into this about 2 months ago, and I'm frantically trying to catch up on all of the different channels.
Listen, take everything off the back burner and go right to the Nearly Historical Railroad and download their videos and watch them, and especially watch for Don and his dad, Don Sr. and Scott. Great bunch of guys, and you're going to love the layout. Lynn McCurdy says the basics isn't that bad with wiring. But with my club, his club, we have 3 NASA engineers helping with the DCC stuff. Well, hey, when you got 3 rocket scientists working on your DCC stuff, I'm sure that
it better be flawless.
It better be flawless. It better be impeccable, and stuff like that. So, yeah, it's, hobby shops are now, seem to be making, I think some of them are starting to make a comeback
a little bit. Yeah.
And I think that the ones who are taking, I know for a fact, Steve Atwell from Midwest Model Railroading, he started out as a internet provider of from out, working out of the basement of his house. And now he has a brick and mortar shop located in Missouri.
Yep.
And he's doing really, really, really well. And I think a lot of shops are starting to come back, but I think they're also mixing into the mix of the internet, which they now realize isn't an enemy, but a friend.
Yeah.
So it's,
I think you have to, if you really want to compete, you need to be able to, have that internet presence. But, there's nothing like being able to go to the hobby shop and actually look at a new model. Right. So that's the drawback to the internet is, well, it looks great in pictures. But then when you finally get it, it's not quite what you thought. And especially for me, where I model the 80s, I'm pretty picky about, build dates and inspection dates and things like that. And, you can't ever see those dates in the pictures. So, you're kind of guessing sometimes. So, being able to go to a hobby shop and see those things in person would be really, really good.
Yeah. Pirates of the Model Train says my oldest son wants to be a geologist on Mars. There you go.
Yeah.
Mystic Southern Railway, he says, a question for Joe. What's your favorite locomotives? Do you run diesel or steam?
I am exclusively diesel. I'm one of those guys that people are going to boo because I just don't see the draw of steam locomotives. I've said it. You can hate me if you want, but
All right. Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us here at Model Railroading Live. No,
probably my favorite diesel is the SD40-2, but because I'm a switching layout, I don't have any six axle diesels. So probably a close second would be the GP38-2, and then followed by the GP40-2. Those are my favorites.
See, you know what I like about this is that there's a wide variety and the variances of what people like and don't like. It's like and I don't even think it's a don't like situation. I just think it's like, hey, it doesn't fit my layout. So
just doesn't do it for me.
Right. I mean, like, I'm one of those guys that like to go down to, since I live in the New York City area, I like to go down to the Lancaster area where they have the Pennsylvania State Museum, Train Museum, and you get to see the steam engines.
Yep.
I enjoy watching them up close and personal. I'm in the same mindset as you. Does it fit my layout? No, it doesn't. Would I want to go and purchase one? No. And that doesn't mean that I'm a snob against steam and it's all diesel, but for the era that I'm running, it would seem out of place, and stuff like that. And, hey, Randall Ellis wants, hey, Big Bill and Joe Parker, what do you think about the voice-activated train sets Lionel is coming out with? And could that be a wave of the future?
I don't know that much about it. It sounds to me like they're trying really hard to get the younger generation involved, which I applaud any way that they can get kids to think about trains. I don't know if it'll be the wave of the future. It seems a little gimmicky to me, I guess is my thought on that. But again, I'm no expert on marketing, so I don't know. And if it gets the younger generation involved in model railroading, more power to them.
Yeah, well, everything's voice activated today. You get in your car and it's voice activated.
True. Yep.
Tesla, I think it drives your own car.
They're getting there for sure.
I don't trust that. I don't.
No. Especially not on the highway, maybe in city driving.
I got a Honda 2018. It's a touring, a Honda Touring, and it's the car that's designed that you can let go of the steering wheel on the expressway, and it will drive itself. But I've been doing that for years, even before that was, my wife would get like totally neurotic about it. Would you put your hands on the wheel?
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Take it easy, relax. Lynn McCurdy says less issues with running diesels than steam, but steam has its draw. It does. Absolutely. Now, since you're building this thing, the Monument City, layout here with B&O. Have you done a lot of research on it?
I'm a bit of a research geek to begin with. So, I really enjoy the research aspect of it. So I've done, I couldn't even tell you how many hours of research on the area, what structures were there, what industries were there. I've taken with my friend a few trips now to Baltimore to kind of traipse around the area and so on. For me, research is a little bit of a hobby within the hobby. I really enjoy it.
Indian Head Valley Railroad says, I talk to my trains, but they don't listen very well.
Usually when I'm talking to my trains, something's wrong, and I'm not just talking.
Yeah. Let's see. Mojave Model Railroad, Tina says, so with Joe growing up in Massachusetts, does he own any Boston and Maine or Providence and Westchester for his layout?
I do have some P&W cars and some B&M cars. I don't have any locomotives in that, but the club that I used to belong to, the Worcester Model Railroaders, there's a bunch of P&W equipment there. So
When you talk about clubs, now you're involved. This is a club that you were previously involved in,
Yeah, that's the club. I was in that club from 1998 to 2018.
and you're presently in a new club.
I wouldn't call it a club. It's we
Oh,
essentially are
in your
building
house.
my
Okay.
layout, and people come over. I guess you could kind of call it a round robin club or something like that, but there's no dues. It's not something you can join. It's just me and my friends and family essentially.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question about: do you think clubs are essential for model railroaders?
Essential.
I mean, as a new guy
Essential is a
starting
strong
out.
word. Um,
Yeah,
I
essential.
think they definitely have their place, and it was really good for me. When I joined that club, I knew essentially nothing, and having exposure to people who had a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge on things, and being able to ask questions, and building things and getting critiques and so on and so forth. For a long time was really helpful. And then, it got to, as with any organization, there's politics and things like that.
Yeah, sure.
So, you have to weigh your what you're getting out of it versus your tolerance for the politics and all those sorts of things. And
Right.
that's a decision every individual has to make on their own.
Right.
And that club is an hour and something away, and I felt personally I wasn't getting as much out of it as I used to. Wanted to focus on my home layout more, and so that's why I made the switch.
Right. Mystic Southern Railway, question for you, Joe. Is the wife supportive of the railroad, or do you have to embezzle money from the household?
Uh, so she is pretty supportive of it. She's not interested in working on it or anything like that, but she knows that I really enjoy it, and so on. We have, I don't know, we have a little bit of a weird situation where we don't mingle all of our funds together. So we sort of keep our funds separate, and then we each put in what we need to for the household. So she buys what she wants to buy, and I buy what I want to buy. And as long as we're both covering the bills every month, everyone's happy.
As long as there ain't nobody knocking at the door and slapping an eviction sticker on that bad
That is
boy.
right. So,
Yeah.
every once in a while she'll ask, well, how much do these things cost? And I'll tell her, and she'll be like, okay, well, it's your money. So,
Yeah. Really? It costs that much?
yeah.
And,
But the good thing is I never have to lie to her. I don't have to say,
No,
oh,
and I
well, this
don't.
was only $20 or something, something like that.
No,
So
I don't. It's funny you should mention that. I've been married 46 years. I know my wife for at least 5 of those prior to being married. So we I think we kind of have a good relationship by now. If we haven't, I don't know what to tell you. But the beauty of my wife is that, and I love her dearly, and I'll say that on every video I do. But I do love her. And what you brought up about, how your wife says, well, how much did that cost? My wife will inquire about the cost of something that I have. And when I tell her, she's like, really that much for that product? That's so small. And then I tell her what goes into making this. And she's like, oh, okay, I could see it. And I said, well, the guy has to make a profit on it,
sure, yeah.
too. So she's like, oh yeah, that's cool, but she's the thrift, she's the goodwill thrift store kind of gal. I've told this story before. She asked to go to a train show with me to Edison, New Jersey, and I didn't want to not to go. I did want her to be there with me. And I said, I just want you to know, there's a lot of walking around and looking and picking things up. It's like a flea market, but it's all trains. And she says, no, I just want to see what it's like. And I was like, okay. So I was in the process of building the South Brooklyn, and she came, and we went to this guy who deals in Walter's kits. That's all he does is Walter's kits. So I knew he was going to be there, and I needed to get a few kits. So I gathered the kits that I need, and I brought it up. And my wife is like looking around. She's being really quiet. And I walk up, and the guy goes, $110 for the whole capacity. So I'm reaching for my wallet, And my wife goes, $110? So the guy goes, yeah. She says, you're paying cash, right? I said, yeah. So she goes, $80. So I look at my wife and the guy looks at me and then looks at her and he goes, 110. She goes, no, 80. And I look at her and I'm like, who is this lady? Then he goes, all right, how about 100? She goes, no, 80. And
She's
it went back, right. It went back and forth until she got him to 95. And then she said, okay, 95 works. She got it. And we walked away. And I said, who are you? And she did that. We went to this guy, there's everyone at the train show. He's got like 6-foot tables and he's got a massive old stuff there. And it's like, 4 for $1. Pick 4 of them for $1. So my wife looks at him and says, is the stuff under the table fair? Ground to go? And he goes, yeah. So she gets down and she sits down in an Indian style and she starts going through them. And I tell her what I'm looking for. And the guy looks at me and he goes, I'm going to lose on this situation, ain't I? And I said, yeah, I think so. And then he tried to change the price in the middle of my wife foraging through boxes. And she was like, oh, no. You said 4 for $1 and that's what we're getting. So we walked out of there with like 60 pieces of rolling stock for like $10, so yeah. So, but that's the best part about it. You don't want to hide the cost, but there's other ways of, other than new stuff than to do anything.
And my wife knows me well enough to know that, I'm not just going to see something and buy it at the first place. I'm going to look around for the best deal that I can get for it. And
sure.
So, I don't like to spend more than I need to.
Indian Head Valley Railroad, my nemesis Wilmer. Only kidding, Wilmer. He wants to know, Joe, are you a scratch build guy or are you a kit build kind of guy?
I'm mostly a kit bash kind of guy. Although I have found that a lot of the structures that I'm putting on the Monument City Terminal Division layout, I have been scratch building. And I've got some pictures for later if people are interested.
Sure, whenever you want to put them up, go right ahead while we're talking.
Generally, I won't, unless it's a small thing like a DPM kit or something like that. I typically won't put something on the layout that's fully baked the way that it came out. I'm gonna share the screen here.
Late Night Model Railroad. He wants to know, I may have missed this earlier, but what is the completion percentage of your home layout?
I'm going to say that it's probably about 25% complete. And hopefully you guys can see this. This is you can probably see my webcam stuff too, but so this is the track plan for my layout, and I decided to build this in sections. So instead of doing all the bench work all the way around and then doing all the track all the way around and all the wiring, I started in this section up here, up to about here. That was the first phase that I did. Did the bench work, put the track in, started working on structures and things like that. And now I've added some more here, this part here, and there's a temporary staging yard in this area. And then once I get this to a level of completion that I'm happy with, then I'll start to build more of the stuff here.
We're not seeing the track plan. We're seeing a oval on the table.
Oh, okay.
A loop.
Yeah, we're seeing a loop with a, what did we call it, in the middle. Let me get to some of these. Lynn McCurdy says, Bill, your wife sounds like mine. Mystic Southern Railway. You have a great wife, Bill. I do. Dwight of Northern Star says, that would be my wife also, Bill. Lynn McCurdy says, only problem with my wife, she'll go around after saying, don't spend too much, and come back with an armful of cute trains. Yes, absolutely.
Can you guys see this now? The PowerPoint presentation.
Well, what we see is a curve comes around in a loop with the yard in the middle.
Okay, so if I could click here and press this button,
we see
the
plan. Yes, okay. Now we see the Monument City subdivision.
Yeah, there we go. So let me try this again. So I started up here with the general motor plan.
Excuse me, Joe. Yep. Not for nothing, but this is one hell of a layout.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
That is a layout, bro.
So this up here is the General Motors plant, and as I was saying, when you couldn't see things, I built up to about here with the bench work in the track, and then I've since stretched down into this area here where there's a temporary staging yard here. So if I go further, this is my General Motors plant. I've got a few pictures of that in various states of completion. This was early on when I didn't have much down. This is a little further on where you can see I've got some pavement and things like that, and some doors, and the sign is actually up there. I've built a guard shack that goes along with that, and now actually there's some other scenic elements there that we'll get to in a second.
What if you could go back to that last picture?
Sure.
What is that? What is that paper? Is that a felt?
So it's foam. I don't know if it's a craft foam or what. I got it from a place called Wandy Foam on eBay, and it's like 1 millimeter thick. It cuts very easy. I paint it with spray paint. So what you see there is a combination of about 5 different colors and some weathering, oils and things like that. But it's pretty thin, easy to cut, easy to glue down. And so that's what I use for roads and parking lots and things.
Tina from Mojave Model Railroad wants to know, what kind of code track are you using?
So in this area, this is code 83 track. When it gets to sort of the chassis main line, I'm using code 100 for that. And any sort of yards and sidings and the Conrail stuff is code 83.
Now, perpendicular or alongside that guard shack,
Yep.
we cross over 1, 2. That third track is that going behind the scenery, behind that wall?
No, it doesn't. It ends at the wall, but there's a photo back.
Oh, okay.
So the very fact that you asked that question makes me believe that I've done my job.
Oh, okay. Okay, so that was the original intent. All right,
Yeah.
great.
So it's supposed to look like it goes behind, but it definitely does end at the wall there.
Okay. Okay, you could put a mirror in there.
I actually have one. I'll show you in a second.
All right. I like the tire arrangement too.
Yeah, that's actually a one-piece casting from Bar Mills or something like that I got somewhere along the line.
Detail on the layout is big.
Exactly. So that's the detail there. Another shot of when I was trying to figure out where to put those things in the trailers and such. I'm happy with like the oil stains and things like that.
Yeah.
That's another nice thing about the foam is it absorbs things just enough to kind of give you that natural feel on it.
Yeah, we have to have I think Ralph Renzetti is in the room. He'll give you some good pointers on weathering oil stains.
Sure. I did light the interior of the plant, and again, my modeling group, one of the guys is working on a scene in there with loading docks and things like that. So that's going to be quite impressive when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
This is a little further there. Again, I forget where I found that backdrop picture, but I pasted that up there, and the bridge hides things.
How do you like those Woodland Scenics lighting things?
I actually like them quite a bit. The ones that are in the pictures don't have the plugs on them, so those have been a bit of a challenge. But the Just Plug system works out pretty well. I think I'm happy with it, and I'll probably continue with it in certain areas on the layout.
Yeah, I like them very much. I went and got the about a half dozen of them and put them on my junkyard. And I got the Just Play and the plug-in system. Then I found that the wires underneath were really very thin.
Very thin, yes.
And very spidery under things. So what I did was I said to them, I had to make an executive railroad decision. Do I really want to light these lights up? Am I really going to do this kind of stuff at night? And the answer was no. So I just then clipped all the wires and left the poles, because I think the poles add a kind of and especially if they're crooked.
Yeah, a little crooked. Yep.
Yeah, a little crooked.
Yep. This photo is also a good example of the weathering that I try to do from pictures and things like that. This is one of those tangent gondolas that was nice and shiny when I started, and given that I'm modeling 1984 and that's lettered for Penn Central. It seemed like it would have been a rust bucket by then, so I went to town on it.
The backdrop, Tina from Mojave Valley Railroad, Model Railroad says the backdrop is nice. She says it blends nice.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It does. It does. What is that in the field there? Is that a rock or a stump?
That's a rock. That's a real rock, actually, from the yard somewhere, or I picked it up somewhere and went, that looks like it would be a big rock in miniature. I'm keeping that, and so I stuck it in there. This thing over here is a thumbtack, so just ignore that. That's not
okay. I didn't even know. I didn't even notice it.
And you can see way over here underneath the UPS truck where it looks like there's light coming through. That's actually a mirror over there. So it actually looks like that the yard tracks continue through the wall, but they don't. And I think I have a better photo of that coming up. So this is the yard. The tracks here in the front are the auto rack loading and unloading. The back two tracks are supposed to be the Canton Railroad interchange. And then there's a couple tracks in here that we use for the assembly plant for when we move things in and out. And this is a better view of that mirror where you can see it. It looks like it just goes through the wall, but it's just reflecting this stuff here.
Nearly Historical Railroad says, I like the idea of the overpass. He says that worked out really.
It did, and it's prototypical mostly. There was the Keith Street overpass in that area, ran right behind the plant, not quite as close as it is there, just because of compression and things like that, but it worked out really well in order to hide that transition for sure.
Hold on. Technology is great when it works.
Yes. As we found out when I was trying to get started here.
So you're saying that overpass was actually there?
Yeah, there is an overpass behind that goes up and over. Because in that area, that particular area of Baltimore, there was this yard, there was a bunch of Conrail tracks, and then the Canton Railroad has a fairly sizable yard there as well. So that road goes up and over so that they can miss all of that stuff.
Now your track on the thing, the switches, what kind of switches do you use?
I use Pico switches, both for the code 100 and code 83. I really like how they have the spring where you don't have to worry about using a machine.
Finger flick.
Yeah, finger flick, and it stays in place. There's one place literally on my layout where I've got a tortoise, and that's because it's going to be behind a building on the scrapyard that I'm about to build. Excuse me. So I designed this so that you could throw the switches all by hand.
Oh, okay. I was going to ask. That was going to be my next question. If it was done if you had tortoise machines or switch machines under there.
Yeah, just the one, although there probably will be a couple more because I've found these tracks in the Canton yard here, they don't have a crossover, and it's becoming an operational challenge. So I think I'm going to put one in there, and that would be too far to reach back there for someone. It's probably a 35-inch reach at that point. So we'll probably put a couple back there as well, but I like to avoid them when I can.
Yeah. Mystic Southern Railway had to head out. Keep going. Keep highballing, Bill, Joe, and everyone. Thank you for tuning in, Mystic.
Thank you. Appreciate you watching.
Yeah.
So this is another scratch build structure that I did. This was it's based on the actual yard office that was there at the Penn Mary Yard. I found some old photos. And actually, the first time we went to Baltimore, that was still standing. It was a different color because it was CSX by then, but I found some good photos of that and modeled that using pike stuff parts and some other things that I found.
Is the engine the CNO 6006? Did you weather that?
I did weather that, and I actually changed the numbers on it as well. The CNO lettering was right, but the numbers looked absolutely horrible out of the box. And I started my career in technical writing, so fonts and typesets are kind of a thing for me, and I couldn't let it go, so I had to change them.
Now, the late night model railroading says, I'm a fan of hand thrown switches, less wiring and saves money. Absolutely agree with you. On your Payco switches, are they insulated or electric?
I use the Insel Frogs. Yep.
Yeah,
They're-
I like them better too because you can just you can attach your wires to them to the DC, and you'll get that good. Like again, wiring is not our thing, right? We
right,
stated that
exactly.
earlier, and stuff. That's a great looking scratch built uh, building you made there. It really is. It's
Thank you.
really interesting. Very very much.
Got another angle of it here.
Sure, sure. Yeah, is that on a piece of plywood, half-inch a quarter-inch plywood?
Actually, I use ceiling tiles for my sub road bed, so the building is sitting on thin cork, which is sitting on the ceiling tile.
Uh, you mean that where the C&O wreck truck is? That's
Yeah, that's
ceiling
cork.
tile? Oh,
No,
that's cool.
this part in the front, where it's a darker brown with sort of the whitish, that's the ceiling tile. As soon as it gets to the tan, that's sheets of cork. I think it's an eighth of an inch.
Tina says, I love the Coke machine in the background.
That is a kit from Nick and Nora. They do a whole bunch of detail parts, and I highly recommend them. They're good people.
Yeah, excuse me. I've purchased some material from that.
Yep. This is, as we get around the corner, this is the big loop that is consolidated coal, and the back of the loop is only about 3 inches from the wall, so I'm playing with some forced perspective here. So the car is HO scale, the structure is N scale, and I don't know if I have any better pictures of this. The structure that's there now is actually a little better, but this is when I was doing some testing, and we'll see how
what's the radius of that curve that goes around?
That's a good question. I tried to keep everything on the layout no less than 24 inch. So it's probably no less than that. I want to say that these were 24.5 inch and 27 inch because there's 2 tracks that go around there.
So the eventual, what you're putting back as a structure building will be an N scale building.
Yes. Yeah, and there'll be some scenery in front of it, like, rows of hedges and things like that, so that it hopefully looks like it's further away than it is. I'm not quite happy with the way that it looks here just yet, but we're getting there.
All right. Tried and true. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Right. And that's just another shot of that. This is just to the right of that last shot. This is not complete because it's actually going to be a bit longer, but this is another scratch built structure, which is the coal unloading shed from the consolidated coal. It's all made out of all pike stuff walls.
I see you have that little switching engine there.
The little trackmobile, yeah.
Yeah, trackmobile.
I found that one. It's actually lettered for consolidated coal, so I was forced to purchase it.
Yeah, of course. Have you ever seen any of those in operation?
Just in videos. I've never seen one live.
Yeah, well, the way that works, I don't know if everybody knows this, but this has tires on it.
Yes. Yep.
And what it would do is it would pull the car in, and then the tires would be lowered to the ground on either side, and they drive out of the end of the rail,
Yep.
and then go back around. And so that's what made these little track mobiles unique. So they could do. I have 2 of these that I bought.
Yeah, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, I love running them around. They zip around. So that's.
I saw an article at some point that one of my friends pointed me into where someone tricked out one of those trackmobiles with DCC and LED lighting, and they put 100 and something LEDs in it, which was just insane.
Yeah, I think I seen that one. That was so. This is going to be these pike buildings. What are they going to be part of?
So they're part of the coal transfer facility. So that's the shed where the trains pull through, and there would be rotary dumpers and everything in there to dump out all the coal, and then it would send it to the conveyors.
Oh, okay. All right.
This is where the scrapyard will be, and that's the video that I posted today. And that's pretty much the end of the show, I think. Oh, well, no, this is the return loop in the temporary staging yard. So.
Now, that like you said, that's the flip side of ceiling tile.
Yes and no. Again, here I've put some more cork down, but the ceiling tile doesn't look that much different. It's it's not the I don't use the white side. I use the back side, and it's a
Right. That's what
tan.
I mean.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a
tan.
tan color that it changes depending on the lot or whatever, but it varies from like a light tan to a dark tan, I guess is the best way to describe it.
So now you lay you put that tile down as your sub road bed,
Yep.
and then you put caulk down, and then the
Um,
track on top of the caulk.
for the main lines, there is cork road bed. For anything that's code 83, it sits directly on the ceiling tile.
Oh, okay. And do you nail this track down?
I do until I ballast, and then I usually pull the nails out.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. That
Uh,
looks really. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry, Joe.
no, go ahead and finish because I was going to go on to the next slide.
No, no. I was going to say that looks really, really nice. I like it.
Thank you. So this is the temporary yard, and here actually you get a pretty good feel for the different colors of the ceiling tiles. Everything you see there is all ceiling tile, as
Right,
evidenced by the lettering and everything else. So
right. And what is the box that's propped up against the wall? What is that?
that is a mock-up of a building that I was using for something at some point, and since we do all of our operating from over in this area, I just did it as a view block so that if we go around the loop, it doesn't look like you're just going around a loop.
Oh, Tina from Mojave Model Railroad wants to know. We have different layouts out here, out in the West where she lives, and we open them up to the public once a year. Does Joe ever open his layout to the public for viewing?
I haven't yet because I haven't felt like it's in a good enough shape that people would actually want to see it. But there generally are conventions and things like that in the area, and we actually do. Um, Again, pandemic notwithstanding, we usually do an event around here called Rail Run once a year. That I would like to open the layout up at some point for that, but I haven't done it yet.
Uh-huh.
And then the last thing I just threw here was these notes. I talked about my modeling group, and the way that we sort of manage things is I basically just put these sticky notes wherever something needs to get worked on.
Right.
And when the guys come in, they pick a sticky note and off they go. And so that's a system that's worked out pretty well for us so far.
How many guys are in your group?
It ebbs and flows depending on the month. I think the most we've ever had down here at any given time was 7, but it's usually between 3 and 5.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right. All right.
So that's all I got there. So I'm done boring people now. So.
Oh, that's far from boring. Far from boring, Joe. Far from boring. This actually was really good. Well, the clock on the wall says where time has run to the extent, and we want to thank you, Joe, for being a part of this Who's Big Bill Talking To. It was really great and interesting to talk to you. And Joe Parker's YouTube channel is the Pixel Depot, Pixel Depot, Depot. Go and subscribe to this man. Let's get him up to a million subscribers.
That would be great, but I don't see that happening.
Very Nearly Historical Railroad says, very nice to have some other people to work on layout with you. Yes, it is. It is.
Yeah, it's good for a sounding board, and sometimes you'll just run into a problem and you don't know how to solve it, and another guy comes in and goes, "Oh, we'll just do this," and so
Yeah.
And it's good for camaraderie and everything too. We
Absolutely.
really do have a great time. We laugh a lot, and it's always good.
Tina from Mojave Model Railroad says, okay, I need a bunch of hot guys to come over and work on my layout. Chocolate martinis, pizza, and beer. Great layout. Thank you for sharing. Wait,
well, you had me until hot guys.
Yeah, right, exactly.
I'm out, right?
I'm on. I'm not coming. I'm not there. Hot guys. God, you want Swedish swimsuit models.
Right.
I'm far from it. I'm a beach ball. So somebody was asking a question. Pultropolis Model Railroad says, "Hey Joe, come join the nightly MRL chat." I will get to that in a minute.
Okay, I will do that.
You got Late Night Model Railroading wants to know what kind of train forwarding system will you be using? Card, something else?
I use car cards, and I've been experimenting with something a little different where I'm actually using it's the plastic sleeves they use for like those, Magic the Game, those kinds of things, those gaming systems, and then using single location waybills that I slide in there. I'm trying to get away from the 4-cycle waybill and do things that are a little more demand based. And I thought it would be easier to do that, but that's how I do it.
Yeah. Ralph Renzetti says to Tina, because he's one of the hot guys, he says, "I'll be there." The Canadian Casanova, as we affectionately call him.
Okay.
So he'll be there, Tina. Don't worry. The gray-head silver fox, Ralph, the Canadian Casanova, as we say. But anyway, our time is up. Joe, thank you so very, very much for being a part of the show. And
anytime, this was a blast. So thank you very much for that.
Yeah, it really was fun, and we'll be in touch and stay tuned and find out how you're coming along. And as you progress, we'll have you back on the show. And
happy to come back anytime.
Absolutely. Cool. Tropolis Model Railroad says about the nightly MRL show. They get together afterwards. It's free of charge as long as you have a camera and the computer, laptop, or standalone computer. You can get on. It's whereby.com, Model Railroading Live, and you can join the rest of. They usually get on about 10 o'clock. Sometimes they go to about 2 a.m., but you don't have to stay until that late. You can stay till whatever time you want. Just to give you a heads up, Johnny's Train Talk Show will be on May 20th, Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and he'll be taking a little bit of a vacation, sabbatical, June, July, and August. He'll be off. We're going to hopefully get a couple of us guys to fill in for him once a month so we can keep it going and active, keep you guys up to speed as to what we're doing and how we're doing it, and talk about model railroading. In the meantime, I also want to remind you guys that we do, here at Model Railroading Live, we do have a Patreon page of different levels, and you guys can feel free to join in, donate once a monthly donation or a one-time donation. We don't use the money for anything other than to put back into Model Railroading Live, such as subscriptions to Whereby, StreamYard, and stuff like that. We're trying right now to figure out about doing people who give like $5 a month, $10 a month, and whatever, what to do as a gift giveaway, and we're pretty much coming close to that. So if you want to, please visit our Patreon page at Model Railroading Live, Patreon, and stuff like that. In the meantime, what else is there? Oh, yeah, I just want to say again that we're sorry to Sir Rod Stewart and Lionel Strand. We were supposed to have them on both tonight, but we ran out of time. So I apologize for that. In the meantime, you guys stay safe out there. You be well, and you be blessed most of all. And we'll see you guys on the radio. And thank you to the community out there for asking such great questions, really, and being a part of this. Because if you're not there, I'm just talking to thin air. Nobody out there. To the guys in Mars, maybe. I don't know. But thanks anyway. And thanks to Ari McKeevy, our producer / director, intern, trainee. He's doing a great job, as Johnny will be away, like I said, June, July, and August. And Ari's taking over the reins, and he's doing a great job. So way to go, Ari. You're the man. Okay? Thank you guys for all you do. And again, we'll see you on the radio.